This video will describe the movement rules. And we're here at Luke 22:9. Peter and John asked Jesus, "Where do you want us to prepare the meal?" For English, in order to form the questions, we use movement rules. And here's the one that's being used right now. These look for various constructions. This will move a noun that's marked as interrogative into a new noun phrase. The movement rules are identical to the structural adjustment rules, which were described in previous videos, so I won't repeat a lot of that here. The movement rules are identical to those rules. They're just executed at this later stage in the grammar tree. As you see here, the structural adjustment rules are up here. But these behave the same way. You can insert new constituents, new phrases, new clauses, whatever you need in the output structure, and then you move things into those new phrases. Let's turn this rule off, and we'll write a new rule. Now when we generate this verse, Peter and John asked Jesus, "You do want us to prepare the meal where?" So let's write a new movement rule. We need to move this interrogative element, this adverb, where, out to the beginning. We also need to move this question auxiliary, the word do. We don't move the entire verb phrase, we just move this question auxiliary out to the beginning of the question. So, with movement rules, you don't have predefined syntactic categories. For the spell-out rules, you have predefined syntactic categories in the clitic rules. For movement rules, they're more like the structural adjustment rules, where you define your groups by double-clicking. I'll call this, we already have a group called question formation. I'll just call this group questions. To change the name of a group, you can right-click, and now we can edit that. There we go. Okay, so we have this new group called questions. To enter a new rule, we double-click. Okay, let's make this rule be triggered by adverbs. The adverbs where and when and why and how. So we'll say this movement rule is based on adverbs. And we'll call this question formation. And in the input structure, when we look at this sentence, this question adverb is embedded in an object complement. So let's put an object complement into here, and in the object complement we'll put an adverb phrase, and in there we'll put an adverb, and its features will be, I use CP spec. With TBTA you can use any linguistic theory, any model that you want, any terminology that you want. Back when I was in school and writing the English grammar for this project, we were studying principles and parameters. So we use CP spec. CP is complementary projection. But again, you can use any terminology, any model that you want. And we also need a verb phrase. We need to specify that this is a complement clause, a patient clause. And we need a verb phrase. This word do, this again is for what I would call a complementary projection. That's in a user-defined category. There it is, CPVP. So those are all the constituents we need in the input structure. Let's go to the output structure. And again, in the model that I use, questions, English questions, they have a noun phrase out at the beginning, and they also have a special verb phrase. I don't want that, I want a verb phrase. Let's say a verb phrase. And we give them special features so that the phrase structure rule will know where to position them. For this noun phrase, I have, for English, I added a feature called positioning info, and one of the feature values is CP spec. So by tagging this noun phrase with a value of CP spec, now the clause phrase structure rule will know where to position this new noun phrase. And for this verb phrase, we'll do the same thing. There's a new feature value that I called CP, and now the phrase structure rule for clauses will know where to position this new verb phrase. So now we can let's move the entire adverb phrase. We'll move the adverb phrase from there to this new noun phrase tagged as CP-spec. And we'll also move this auxiliary verb, this question auxiliary verb, from the regular verb phrase to this new verb phrase called CP. So that should be sufficient for this particular sentence. We always want to put in a comment. Okay. Where do you want us to prepare the meal? So that worked. If we rest our cursor here, we see that this was moved by the movement rule that we just wrote. If we look at this noun phrase, it was inserted by the movement rule that we just wrote. This verb phrase also inserted by the movement rule that we just wrote. And this was inserted by a spell-out rule, but then moved by the movement rule that we just wrote. So that's how you use the movement rules. These rules, they're identical to the structural adjustment rules, but we use them for question formation, existentials, or anything else that your target language needs.